k-means. And second algorithm that we will talk about is agglomerative clustering, also known as the hierarchical clustering. So we will talk about agglomerative or hierarchical clustering also later on, but first we will discuss k-means and its hands-on session. So what is k-means? K-means clustering is one of the simplest and most commonly used clustering algorithm. So very important, these two characteristics, important characteristics: simplest algorithm, most commonly used algorithm. And it tries to find cluster centers that are representative of certain regions in the data. So again, here you need to focus on this very key phrase of this term: certain regions of the data. And when we will say focus on this very aspect, that we are talking about certain regions of the data, see, it must give you an indication that now we are talking about geometrical model. So again, if you can recall from our previous discussion, we said there are three types of model: geometric model, probabilistic model, rule-based model. Obviously, k-means is not an example of probabilistic model or rule-based model. K-means comes under the category of geometrical model. And when we say k-means is a geometrical model, we can talk about certain regions of the data. Regions means they are occupying some space in a coordinate system, irrespective whether we consider a two-dimensional space or a three-dimensional or a higher dimensional space. We are considering some spatial representation of the data instances in that space. So it tries to find cluster centers that are representative of certain regions of the data. So here, just as an example, I am considering a three-dimensional space, three-dimensional spatial set, because k-means is the example of geometrical region. And if I say that this is the original data set that is given to you, and you have to group these data items on certain clusters, then we are ultimately coming up with clusters like this. Like these data instances belonging to cluster 1, these data instances belonging to cluster 2, these data instances belonging to cluster 3. So what it is doing, it is tries to find the cluster centers and then group the data items on the basis of that cluster center. So again, if I say this is the output, the cluster center may be somewhere over here. Here also the cluster center may be somewhere over here, and here the cluster center may be some over here. And the notion of cluster center is clearly defined over here. It is nothing but it is the mean. If you take the mean of different data items that are in this domain, in this very region, that will lead us to the concept of cluster center. And again, because we are talking about the geometrical model, spatial representation, mean is a meaningful term, and the cluster centers really start looking at you distributed in a certain regions of the data. So what k-means is doing, it is trying to find cluster centers that are representative of certain regions of the data. And the algorithm alternates between the two steps. So again, if you are asked to give the implementation of k-means, just if you are asked to write the code for k-means algorithm, then in that code, if you are writing k-mean algorithm, you just need to give the specifications of these two steps. You just need to code these two steps only. What are these steps? Number one, assigning each data point to the closest cluster center. Now, here you may ask me one question, that when first time we are applying this algorithm, when let's say we are in the first step of this algorithm, when we are just given the data set and data just is, the data items are distributed in the space, initially from where the cluster centers will come? And the answer over here is that initially you will randomly assume, certain random values as the cluster center. So you will take any 2 points, let's say 1 point over here and 1 point over here, and you will assume that these are the cluster centers. And then you can start going through the different steps of the algorithm. So first step, assign each data point to the closest cluster center. If initially no cluster center you have, you take those values randomly, you take the cluster center randomly, and then set each cluster, okay, assign each data item to the closest cluster center. So you find out the distance of this data item from these cluster. So the items which are closest to the cluster mean they will belong to that cluster region only. And in the second step, you have to set each cluster center as the mean of the data points that are assigned to it. Why? Because when you will assign data points to these cluster centers, which you have chosen randomly, it will give rise to a shape like this, so wherein this point may not be a true representative of this cluster center. So the cluster center will get changed if you consider all these data instances that are belonging to this cluster. So this may come somewhere over here. So what you will observe that these cluster centers have started changing. So we have to set each cluster center as the mean of the data points that are assigned to it, and we have to repeat these two processes until you observe no change in the cluster center. Well, whatever I have explained, I'll give it a diagrammatical representation also in the next slide so that you can understand these two concepts. But in a nutshell, first you have to assign each data point to the closest cluster center. And then in the second step, you have to set each cluster center as the mean of the data points that are assigned to it. And the algorithm is finished when the assignment of instances to the clusters no longer changes. So this is the stopping criteria. Because ultimately at one point your algorithm has to stop. And what is the stopping criteria? When you will observe no change in the cluster centers, at that point you have to terminate this algorithm. And this is the diagrammatical representation of the process that I have explained. So now you need to, pay close attention to this, the working of the k-mean algorithm through an example, the working of k-mean algorithm. So consider this very portion of the, data set. So here we are considering a two-dimensional space, and these circles are the set of data instances that are given to us. Now, as I mentioned that our first step is to take certain cluster centers, and if initially the cluster centers are not given to you, have to assume those cluster centers randomly, and this is exactly what we have done in this diagram. So the label over here is random selection of k seeds or state. What this k is representing in k-means algorithm? The number of cluster. Now over here, because we are partitioning into two clusters, so two groups, so the value of k over here is 2. So random selection of k seeds, and because k is 2, because ultimately our goal is to group these data instances into two clusters, so the value of k is 2, and we have taken two random seeds or centroid with respect to this data set. And I think you are able to figure them out, that where those are. So this is first seed, first centroid, and this is second. And we have to take these two values initially, just as in this case, these two seed points, the centroids came out to be here, one at this location and another at this location. Now, how the algorithm proceeds? First, we had the data randomly. We have selected two centroids, two seeds. Now, what will happen next? So first step is the cluster assignment. Now, assuming these 2 points as the centers for two clusters that you are ultimately coming up with, now you will try to bind these data instances to one of these cluster points. So again, if distance is a measure, okay, so very clearly you can see this very point, this point, this point, and this point, the points which have marked in circle, they are close to this center. So they will appear as, so they will come under the vicinities of this very plus, and they will appear to us as belonging to one cluster. But if I talk about this very data point which I am highlighting now, this is not close to this plus, this is close to this plus. So this 0 will come under the vicinity of this seed point. And similarly, if we talk about all these points, obviously these points are close to this plus, and they will start appearing to us as in the vicinity of this cluster center. So in iteration 1, this is going to be the state of affairs at the end of the first iteration. Now, if I talk about this cluster and this cluster, obviously this plus was taken randomly, but this is not a true representative of the cluster center with respect to these data instances. Similarly, this value, this plus was also taken randomly, and it is not a true representative of the cluster center with respect to this set of data instances. So what we do, we recompute the centroids. So see how the things have changed. Here, because this was the plus which was taken randomly, but when this group was formed, obviously the cluster center has changed and it has come over here. So you note the change in location of the cluster centers. Similarly, if we talk about this very group, this was the second cluster. Initially, the centroid was here only. But when we will recompute, when you recompute the centroid, it will come over here. You see the change in location of the centroid. So I think you have understood this very concept. So initial data set was given, randomly we selected two seeds, and we marked all the data ascensions as belonging to one of these two cluster centroids, to whichever that data point is close to. And in the next step, then we are recomputing the centroids, and centroid will get changed. Now, if assuming these two centroids, you again start grouping these data instances, you will observe that now the groups have changed. Now these zero will start appearing to as belonging to this cluster one, and these zero will start appearing as belonging to this very cluster. So you again see the change. Initially, these zeros were close to, now because these zeros are close to this very plus, so they will come under the vicinity of this cluster. So you will get this cluster and this cluster. I hope you are able to make sense of these diagram. And again, when we will recompute the cluster centers, they will get changed. Again, we will make new assignments. Cluster assignment is done, and this whole process is repeated until no change in the centroid is observed. Now see this last step, the algorithm is finished when assignment of instances to the clusters no longer changes. So here you can see there is no change occurring in the cluster centroids. Now they were exactly same as in the previous step. So you see the location, they were exactly same as in the previous step. So we will stop over here. The algorithm will get terminate over here, and these two clusters become the output from the algorithm. So this is the philosophy of working of the k-means algorithm. Once again, you must understand that k-means is a geometrical model. Because here we are talking about coordinate system, two-dimensional or three-dimensional space, and in that space, in geometric coordinate only, the notion of cluster centroid k-means is appropriate. Otherwise, if you are operating in some other domain, there would be no sense of mean will make no sense, and hence you cannot apply the k-means algorithm. Now, this is the pseudocode for the k-mean algorithm that later on you can implement in Python also. But so we will do two tasks. Number one, we will try to use the built-in algorithm of scikit-learn, a k-mean algorithm. And second, we will also try to give our own code to this k-means algorithm. We will implement k-mean algorithm in our terms only. So these two tasks we will perform. So one, we will make use of built-in k-mean algorithm. Second, we will code our own k-mean algorithm. So the algorithm, starts like this. So k-means D and K. These are the two inputs. So try to understand what are the inputs to this algorithm, k-means algorithm. So one element is D. D is nothing but the data. And the data elements are belonging to the set of real numbers. So when we say that D is a subset of RD, this simply means that your data sets, the domain of items which are there in your data set, the domain of those items is the set of real numbers. And k is the number of clusters, and k belongs to a natural number. You cannot group your data instances into 1.5 clusters. Okay, the cluster number needs to be 1 or 2 or 3 and so on. So that's why here we are saying, representing the fact that number of clusters which you are denoting with symbol k, that belongs to the set of natural numbers. So the data instances themselves are real numbers, but the number of cluster is a natural number, the k. So D is the data and k is the number of clusters. And what is the output? Output from this algorithm is the k clusters. That's why its name is k-means. K-means means you are ultimately coming up with k groups, k clusters. So the output is k K cluster means denoted with symbols mu1, mu2, so on up to mu k. And all these means again belongs to the real numbers, because okay, you are operating in geometrical coordinates, geometrical space, and the mean can be a real number value also, the real value also. That's why these values mu1, mu2, so on up to mu k, these belongs to the real number. Now, look at the different steps. Number one, randomly initialize k positive vectors mu1, mu2, so on up to mu k, and where each of these mu values, mean values, are belonging to the set of real number. And this is what exactly we did, when we talked about, when we were talking about this, diagram. So this is the first step where here. So here we were, we were taking those clustered centroids randomly, and this is the same step that we are referring to now. Randomly initialize k vectors mu1, mu2, so on up to mu, and now we are repeating certain steps. And what are those steps? Number one, assign each x which belongs to data sets. So this x item is coming from the data sets. We are assigning each x to argument minimum j distance x mu j. So what is the meaning of this very expression? Is that we are first calculating the distance between the data item x which belongs to the data item, the distance of this item from the mean values that we have chosen randomly, and we are iterating over all the k mean values, because there were k vectors, k mu values, to whichsoever centroid this x value is close to, this x would be assigned to that centroid, to that cluster. So very, very logical interpretation, very logical meaning. Like if you have come up with, let's say, 6 cluster centers, and you are talking about first data instances, or if this data instance is close to this very cluster, it will start appearing as belonging to this cluster. If this might have come as close to this plus, then it will start appearing as belonging to this cluster. So this is what we are doing over here. We are assigning each x which belongs to the original data sets. This, so x is the data instances, and the label assigned is with respect to the distance of data item to each of the mean values, to whichsoever mean value that item is close to, it will be assigned to that cluster. Now for j is equal to 1 to k, what we are doing? So what was k? The total number of clusters. So this loop is getting executed that many number of times, cluster number of times, and what we are doing is dj arrow x belongs to d x such that x assigned to cluster d. So what is happening over here with respect to previous diagram? Now we are talking about this very steps, recomputing centroids. So what is happening now? Recomputation of centroid is happening when we are talking about the first step in the loop. So this very step, this dj belongs to x, which further belongs to the data items, and x is assigned to cluster j. So here reassignment is occurring, and once the reassignment has been done, we are computing the new mu value also. So again, if you refer back to the previous diagram, okay, here so there were two important steps I'll highlight. One was the cluster assignment, and second was the recomputation of centroid. Cluster assignments, recomputation of centroids. And these two things are happening now over here in this, diagram, in these two steps. So here what is happening is, the assignment part, and here what is happening is the recomputation of those centroids. So I have just tried to relate the previous diagrammatical representation with these two steps. So you have to repeat these steps until no change in mu1, mu2, so on up to mu q. So until no change is observed in different centroids, we'll go on carrying repeating these steps, and once no change is there, we will terminate the process, and we will return those individual centroid values mu1, mu2, so on up to mu q. So in a nutshell, this is the working of the k-mean algorithm. Now we will look at the hands-on session, the practical applications of this k-means algorithm. So again, I will demonstrate the working of k-mean algorithm on Google Colab. So let me take you to that environment, Google Colab books. So is here. So let me connect to the environment first, allocating. Okay, so now system is connected. It has been allocated RAM and disk. Now we can start coding the k-mean algorithm. So let me write first few lines, and then I'll explain that why we have written those lines. So first is So first we will write percentage matplotlib inline. You might be knowing that matplotlib is a plotting library. You can plot different kind of graphs if you are given with the data and you want to come up with different graphs, graphical representation of the data, then you can use this matplotlib library. And the purpose of writing matplotlib inline is that we want those graphs to appear in a line with the other outputs that we will produce via the printf statement or the print statement of the Python. Now import matplotlib. So second, we are writing import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. So we will refer to the pyplot, the plotting functionality with the symbols with the name PLT. And we will also make use of Seaborn. This will also complement matplotlib. This is also plotting library. Import Seaborn as SNS, and we will initialize it also as ns.set, and import numpy as np. So when we write import numpy as np, so this is numeric Python, because many of the features, because ultimately we have to store the data in ND array, numpy array, and the numpy array will come from this library, numpy library. So that's why we have written the statement import numpy as np. Now in the Google you can search what is this Seaborn Python. So later on you can explore this. So Seaborn basically is a Python data visualization library based on matplotlib. And similarly, if you write matplotlib, it will tell you exactly what matplotlib is. It is a comprehensive library for creating static, animated, and interactive visualization in Python. So because in our work also, in the demonstration of k-means algorithm, we have to draw certain diagrams, graphs. So that's why we are importing these libraries. So matplotlib inline, import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT, import Seaborn as SNS, and import numpy as NP. Now, next. Now, because this k-mean algorithm searches for a predetermined number of clusters within an unlabeled multi-dimensional data set. So now we will proceed accordingly. So first of all, we will have to generate a two-dimensional data set, because obviously we need a data set first to operate on. A data set where we can apply the k-means algorithm. So what we are doing now is we are generating a 2D data set. So we will generate a two-dimensional data set now, so that we can demonstrate the working of k-means algorithm on that. So what I will do, from sklearn dot datasets dot sample generator import make blobs. So let me explain a little bit about this make blob function. Using a make blobs function, you can generate data. I will tell you exactly how make blobs functions can be made use of, but it is belonging to this sklearn.datasets.sample generator. So from this sklearn datasets sample generator, we are importing make blobs, and make blobs function later on now will be used to generate the two-dimensional datasets. So let's capture the output from this make blobs function in these two variables x and y underscore true. So again, here you need to understand what is x. X is the input data set, and what is y true. Y true basically represent the ground truth values. Now here you may ask me one question, because a clustering is an unsupervised task, and we are not dealing with a data set which has labels. So why we are capturing this value? Well, because this make blobs function returns those values also. That's why we are capturing y true. But otherwise, when I will demonstrate clustering via k-means, so we will not make use of this y true value when we are forming the cluster, when the groups are formed. So this is simply for the just for the generation of data purposes. So x y true is equal to make blobs. So first argument that you can pass to make blobs is the number of samples, that how many samples you want in your data sets. So if I write number of samples is equal to 300, so this function will generate 300 samples, 300 data instances for your data set. So number of samples I have mentioned as 300, and centers equal to 4. So intentionally now we are making we are generating the data in such a way that it will start appearing closer to 4 centers. So we are generating data in such a way that it is having 4 cluster, it is having 4 groups. So that's why we have mentioned the value of centers as equal to 4. And cluster STD, standard deviation, we will take as 60%, and random state is another variable that we need to pass to, and we can simply pass that variable with value 0, because ultimately when you are generating the data, these numbers would be generated randomly, and we have to initialize the random number generator to a particular state, and that random state value we are initially taking as equal to 0. So please try to understand what we have mentioned is that we want 300 samples in our two-dimensional data sets, and we want those samples to be clustered around 4 groups, four centroids, and cluster standard deviation we have mentioned is 0.60, and the random state is 0. Now, if I plot this data, now that with when this function will execute, the data has been generated. And if I try to plot this data on a two-dimensional surface, that I can do with the help of this PLT variable, which we have instantiated taken from this matplotlib.pyplot. So if I write plot dot scatter, so I am what I am doing is I am producing a scatter plot of this data, x data. So what is the input? X colon 0, and again x colon 1, and size is equal to 50. Now, let me explain a little bit about this function scatter. So what we are passing is, the first dimension and the second. We need to mention the x value and the y value. When we said that we have generated a two-dimensional data set, X. So two values have been generated, X and Y value and Y value. For each instances, we have got a X value and a Y value. And what we are plotting now in the scatter plot is the X values along with the Y values. So X values will come from this index 0 and the Y values will come from this index, which I have mentioned as 1. So 0 is representing the X value, 1 is representing the Y value. This capital X is representative of, is basically referring to the whole data set. And these column basically means that we want to display all the 300 values of this data set. If you just want to plot first 10 or first 20 values, so here you can mention column 10, column 20, also here also X column, you can mention either column 10 or column 2. But at present, let's proceed with these values only, that we are producing, we are plotting all the samples, first the X dimension, then the Y dimension, and the size of the markers that would be plotted on the scatter is going to be 50. So if I run this code now, so this is the random data. This shows the random data that you have generated. So again, what this was, number of samples equal to 300. If you count the number of circles over here, in total these are 300. When we said that center is equal to 4, intentionally we generated the data as belonging to 4 different groups, 4 different clusters. So first, second, third, and fourth. So that was the meaning of center is equal to 4. Cluster standard deviation is equal to 0.60. So that's why, so they appear, scattered far away, little far away or close also from each other. And that happens because of this standard deviation 0.60. And then random state value is 0 because all this data has been generated randomly, and we have initialized the random number generated to a particular seed, and that seed value is 0. And after that, we have simply plotted these values with the help of this scatter function. Now, what I was telling you, if you simply write 20 over here, then your intention becomes just to plot the first 20 values. So if I execute the code with these values, and now if I execute, you will see now not all these 300 values are appearing. You have just plotted the 20 values. If you count the number of circles, the total, in total, these are going to be the 20 circles, and this is how they are belonging to different groups. So the groups that we mentioned are number is equal to 4. So we will keep plotting the entire data. And this is the data set now you have generated. Because why we needed this data set? Because we want to demonstrate the use of k-means on that. Now we will apply k-mean algorithm on this data set. So what I will write, from sklearn dot cluster import k-means, and then we instantiate the k-means. So k-means variable is equal to k-means number of clusters is equal to 4. K-means dot fit X. So let's try to understand now what do we mean by these statements. So when I wrote from sklearn dot cluster import k-means, so what we have done is we have imported this k-means functionality into our code, into our programming environment. And then we have instantiated a k-means object by making a call to the constructor of k-means class k-means, and the parameter that we have supplied is the number of cluster values equal to 4. So what we have instructed k-means algorithm is that we want to group this data, cluster this data into 4 groups. And we expect this k-means algorithm to work well because, really this data set has 4 clusters, and we have asked k-means to identify those clusters. So we will just check whether the k-means algorithm is working properly or not, whether the k-means algorithm is able to identify these 4 clusters or not. So that's why we have written k-means is equal to k-means number of clusters is equal to 4. K-means dot fit is where actual, learning is happening. So again, because this is not a supervised learning algorithm, we are not coming up with any predictive model. But yes, labels are being assigned to different data instances, and that is one aspect of looking at the prediction side. So k-means dot fit will actually learn the properties of the data set, and it'll try to, group your data items into different clusters. So now if I, let's execute it. Okay, k-means algorithm has been prepared. K-mean, has been instantiated. Now if I plot the data, let's say plot dot scatter x colon 0. So this is the x value of the data set. Then x colon 1, this is the y value of the data set, comma c is equal to y underscore k. So now we need to define this variable first. C basically is the color. So we want to color these data instances with the cluster values. So because ultimately we are trying to find out the 4 clusters, those values are going to be 0, 1, 2, 3. So we want our color systems to attain those 4 values, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that the output can be displayed with 4 different colors for those 4 clusters. But for that, we need to prepare this k-means variables first, and the value of this k-means will come from from the predict function, because ultimately what we are saying, that each of these data instances would be assigned some cluster value. And because we have mentioned that we are dividing this data set into 4 clusters, so one from those 4 clusters labels would be assigned to the data instances. So let's prepare that y k-means values. First, y k-means is equal to k-means dot predict on x. So again, before looking at the output of this very statement, let's try to first plot the value of k-mean, y means, so that you have a better idea of what y k-means is actually having in its value. So if we run this code, so when we tried to print k-means values, see, we had 300 data sets, 300 instances in our data sets. And when you have fitted the model, and after the fitting the model, when you will make a call to predict, all these 300 values will be assigned a label from the 4 values, because ultimately we are grouping the data into 4 clusters. So those values are 0, 1, 2, 3. So you'll see those 300 values have been assigned those labels. The label value is either 3 or 2 or 1 or 0. So distinct 4 values are there because number of clusters are 4, and these 300 data instances has been assigned those values. Similarly, if you will make the number of clusters to be equal to 5, let's say. Now if I'll run this code, you'll say the k-means values are ranging from 0 to 5, 0 to 4, total of 5 values, because you have mentioned the 5 clusters. But because we generated the data with 4 clusters, so let's pass number of clusters to be equal to 4 only. So this is just for your understanding that how these, what these k-mean values look like. And we want the color, this C value, to come from this Y means only. So that means to say the output would be, displayed with four colors, because K means is having 4 distinct values that those we are assigning to C. So 4 distinct colors will appear in our output. And size is, let's say 50, and C map. So when we say that 4 different colors will appear in our output, from where those 4 colors will come. So those 4 color values will be, will come from the from a color map. And the color map are certain fixed things in Python. And one of the color map is Viridis, VIRIDIS. DIS. No need to, pay much attention to this. This is, you simply remember that this CMap is a color map, and one of the color map available in Python is VIRIDES. There are others also, like Inferno is there, Plasma is there. You can experiment with those values also, but let's, execute this statement. Well, so here you can see our algorithm, the k-mean algorithm, has very correctly identified the 4 clusters. So what we did, we prepared the data. We prepared the data in such a way that that data set consisted of 4 cluster, 4 groups. Then we applied k-means algorithm on that, and we have asked k-mean algorithm to group this data into 4 clusters, and the k-mean algorithm did exactly that. And we tried to plot those values with the different colors, that if the item is belonging to one cluster, then that needs to be displayed with the same color, and the output that we have displayed, and from that output, now it is very clear that k-means has correctly identified the cluster, the groups from this very data set. So this was a little demonstration of the working of the k-means algorithm. Now you may also be interested in knowing the center, that where exactly is the mean. But because again, when I talk about when we talk about this k-mean algorithm, we ultimately said that see, the means have come over here. Like if this is the one cluster, the mean is somewhere over here. If this is a cluster, the mean is somewhere over here. Those mean values we can also display alongside this graph, along with this graph. So let's proceed to print those mean values also now. So what I can write is plot dot scatter centers 0, centers 1. So 0 means the x value of center, 1 means the y value of center, and color, let it be red. That means to say we want to display the cluster means with color red. Let size be 200, and alpha value be equal to 0.5. So this alpha value basically represents the transparency of the object that you are displaying. We are displaying a point, and size is 200, and we want to display that point with size 200 with 50% transparency. So that's why we have mentioned alpha is equal to 0.5. But again, because you are plotting the centers, you need to obtain this center value first, and our centers are k-means. Because when we say that we have fitted the k-mean algorithm has converged to certain centers, and those centers can be obtained from this variable cluster underscore centers is equal to. So centers is equal to k-means dot clusters centers. Now before plotting this on a graphical panel, let's first try to print these center values. Okay. So if I execute the code now, you will see this statement print centers has resulted in these 4 centers. So first center, second center, third center, and fourth center. Because we tried to cluster our data into 4 groups, 4 clusters, and these are the centroids, cluster centers of those 4 groups. And now if I enable this statement also, if I plot the centers on this panel also, and this is the output you will get. So here you can see for this very cluster, this was the center. For this very cluster, this is the center, this is the center, and now we have plotted 4 centers. So you can also plot center with a different color. Let's say white, and alpha is let's say 0.1. If you will now execute the code, okay, because the alpha value is 0.1, so transparency is high, but let it be then 9. So now with white color also, or with any other color also, you can produce output you can display the means. With red, now the output will look like this. So these are the centroids, the cluster centers of these four groups, of these four clusters. So I hope the idea is clear to you. Now, while using the k-means algorithm, you must also be aware of its limitations also. Like one of the limitation is that it may not be possible with this algorithm to obtain the globally optimal result. Now, what do we mean by that? Now, in order to understand that very aspect, let's first try to have our own implementation of the k-means algorithm. So what we will do now, first, we will implement k-means algorithm. So we will write our own code. We will write our own code for k-means algorithm. How we can do that, I'll demonstrate. But again, first, let me show you what was the code. So basically, we will try to mimic these points. So the input is this data item, output is the k number of cluster, and we have to perform these steps repeatedly. First, we have to assign each data item to a cluster center that is near to it, and then we have to go through the process of reassignment of those instances to the cluster and updation of cluster mean. So all these algorithm we will, all these steps we will code now. So let's try to understand that. From sklearn dot matrices import pairwise distances argument. So what this first statement is doing, we are trying to import this pairwise distances argument mean function. Why? Because if you look at the algorithm here, we are making use of that function. So here you can see arg minimum j distance to xj. So there is a predefined built-in function available in Python, that is giving you this functionality, wherein we are trying to assign each data instances to the cluster center which is near to it. So argument minimum over j, distance of that data point from the cluster means. So this functionality, in order to include that functionality in our code, we have written this statement from sklearn.matrices import pairwise distances argument. Now we will give our own definition. We will give our definition of k-means. We are coding the k-means algorithm now. So we'll write a function def find clusters. So what is x? The first variable x is the data set, the input data sets. And because this function require the number of clusters in advance, that is in how many clusters you want to divide your data set into. So that parameter also needs to be supplied, and that is number of clusters. Number of clusters, and r seed is equal to 2. So this is basically for the random number generated. So let me once again explain these values. X is the data set that is input to this function. Number of clusters is the number of clusters, okay, in which you want to divide your data set. So if number of clusters is equal to 5, means you want to come up with 5 clusters of your data sets. And the random seed value is equal to 0. That would be used for random number generator, because ultimately we have to generate this sum of the data randomly also. So we have to first randomly choose the cluster. So I will write RNG random number generator is equal to np dot random dot random state, and I'd initialize it with value r seed that we will pass through the function. So np dot random state r seed, and let I value be equal to rng dot permutation X shape 0, number of clusters. Now, this is the important statement for you to understand. When I write I is equal to random number generator dot permutation x dot shape 0 colon number of clusters. Now with x dot shape 0, what I am obtaining is the x coordinate, of the data that has been passed to this function. And now what I am doing is I am picking the first n number of cluster values. So if the number of cluster is 4 and I have to take 4 random value, four cluster randoms randomly, so that number I will mention over here, number of clusters. But to pick those values randomly, first I am generating a permutation with those values. X dot shape 0, x dot shape 0 basically is 300. Why? Because we know initially we generated a sample of 300 data instances. So here itself, if I print x dot shape, so we will see it will output 302. So 300 means that there are 300 instances, the number of samples, and each sample is having two coordinates. One is x coordinate and one is y coordinate. Now we are making a random permutation of these 300 points so that we can pick these four cluster randoms randomly to begin to start our algorithm. And that is happening with this very statement, rng dot permutation x dot shape 0. This value is basically 300. We are taking random permutation of those 300 values and we are picking the first n, and n is the number of clusters. And now this simply means that now we have got the information about the four cluster centers that have been generated randomly. So I can pass those values in centers. So centers is equal to x I. So again, the idea will be clear to you if I display the value of this centers. If I say print centers, now in order to actually print that center values, I need to make a call to this function first, find clusters, and let's say find clusters, pass this x value, the data set that we have generated randomly in the previous code block, and 4 is the number of cluster. The seed value will remain the same, that is 2. Now if I execute this code, actually this has to come in a square bracket. So as you can see now, in this case, we were able to find, we are able to, initialize, four cluster centers to random values. So because the number of cluster centers we passed is 4. So we were first interested in generating the random values for those 4 cluster centers. And these are the random values, random x and y values for those cluster centers. So that has been done with the help of this function RNG, permutation, x shape, and number of clusters. And we have obtained those values in the centers. So we will not plot, we will not display this value. That is just for your understanding. Now we can, start coding the algorithm. So while true. So again, if you look at, this very algorithm, so repeat, So when we are saying repeat, we have to repeat this process these many number of times. So what we are doing is we are mimicking this statement with the help of this while true. And what we are doing, first labels. That's labels is equal to pairwise distance argument minimum x centers. So again, see, we have what we have done now is we have implemented this statement. We have modeled this statement. Assign each x belongings to D to argument minimum j distance to x mu. So x value and center values we have passed over here. So you can see x value and the center value. And what we have done is we have tried to mimic to model this very statement, assign each x belonging to this. So this is that statement. Now we have to find out the new centers and assignment also. Now we will repeat these two steps, and for that the code will be new centers is equal to np dot array x labels is equal to I dot mean 0 for I in range number of clusters. Again, over here we have found the new clusters. So we have assigned each item as belonging to the new cluster now, and then we have recomputed the mean. So this is the first step. We have find the new centers as np.array x labels is equal to I. So try to understand. So where labels are ranging over the 4 clusters. So I is ranging from number of clusters. Number of clusters are 4, means for those 4 labels, we are calculating the new mean. Mean 0 means we are acting on x and y values directly of this data set x, because ultimately we have to come up with 4 new centers. So that's why I is ranging from number of clusters to 4, and for each we are calculating the new mean value. And this process needs to be repeated until no change in mu1 mu2 so on up to mu k. So what we will write if np dot all centers is equal to new centers break centers is equal to new centers, and ultimately we have to return the centers and labels. So this is the code for your implementation of k-means algorithm. So now when we make a call to find clusters, so we can capture the data in centers and labels. So this is equal to find clusters. Let's run the code to check whether this implementation is running fine. So yes, this code has been executed fine. And now if I plot plt dot scatter, again, let me copy the statement, the same statement, scatter x0 x1 size is 100, and let's say c is equal to labels now, and cmap is equal to, again, as previously used, VIRI DIS. If I execute the code now, so you will see our on implementation of k-mean algorithm has also resulted in the same groups. So now I've shown you the two results. This was the first result, but this result has come from the built-in k-means algorithm that we have obtained from this sklearn.cluster import k-means. And second result, this very result has come from our own implementation of k-means. And what we have done is we have simply coded these steps of the algorithms. So this is the Python code, and when we will run this code again, this code will also classify the data instances into the 4 clusters. Now what I was telling you, that with the help of this k-means algorithm, sometimes it is not possible to achieve a globally optimal result. Now what do we mean by that? Now if I again execute these two statements, but with a different, let's say, random seed value. Now, if over here, now I mention that R seed is equal to 0. So initially we take the R seed value as equal to 2. But if I take the value as equal to 0, what will happen? So here you will see now the algorithm has found 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 clusters, but in a different way. So see the result here. The results were correct. But again, if I execute the algorithm with a different seed values, then the result can be different also. Why? Because it depends that how the random values are getting generated, how the initial values of those centroids are generated, how the random values for those centroids were generated. So there are certain limitations also for this algorithm. Just one limitation I showed you, but if we rely on the built-in representation of k-means, that is more robust and that is able to handle this situation in a pretty good way. And second, another challenge that I have already explained that lies within the philosophy of k-means itself is that the number of clusters must be selected beforehand. So this is the another challenge. That is, we must tell it that how many cluster we want to have in our data set. It cannot learn the number of clusters automatically from the data. So that is a big disadvantage in the usage of k-means algorithm also. And second, k-means algorithm is limited to the linear boundaries also. If the boundaries are very complex, so later on, if you try it on a complex data set in the sense, again, if I display it on the screen, if I am applying it to a data set where the boundary is very complex, let's say your plus and minus are distributed like this. So here the boundary is complex. Complex is in the sense that this boundary is actually separating these positives from these negatives. But here the boundaries were, not complex, like, when we say that this is the correct results. So here the boundaries were, well defined. Like, if we have this, So the boundaries were linear. So one belonging here, another belonging here, third belonging here, fourth belonging here. But you know, if we apply k-means algorithm to the data where the separation is complex, which are not separated by linear boundaries but rather non-linear boundaries, so there the k-mean algorithm may not perform well. So this is the another disadvantage of applying k-means algorithm. So this is one thing, because I told you that we will talk about two algorithm. One is the k-mean algorithm and second is the hierarchical clustering algorithm. So let's talk a little bit about that algorithm also, the hierarchical clustering. So hierarchical clustering is also called the agglomerative clustering, and let's try to understand the basic idea. Please have attention. Please focus on the first paragraph, that what is the philosophy of agglomerative or this hierarchical clustering. So agglomerative clustering refers to a collection of clustering algorithms that are built upon the same principles. And what those principles? The algorithm starts by declaring each point its own cluster and then merges the two most similar clusters until some stopping criteria is satisfied. So this algorithm works in a bottom-up fashion. So what we are trying to say is that initially, if in your data set you have 10 items, then the algorithm will say, okay, first you have the 10 clusters. Then you will try to merge the similar items with each other, and then you proceed until you obtain one global cluster. So again, if you want me to diagrammatically show the working of this very algorithm, just like we have a diagrammatical representation of k-means algorithm. So this is a diagrammatical representation of the working of the hierarchical clustering algorithm. So please try to understand the philosophy of this very algorithm, clustering algorithm now. So what we have over here now is we have 4 points: P1, P2, P3, and P4. Now these are the 4 points that we want to cluster now. Now this is the location of P1, P2, this is P3, this is P3, this is P4, and this is P5. Now, as this algorithm say, so when it starts, it says that there are 5 clusters in the data set. Means as many points. The number of points is equal to the number of clusters. So because we have 5 points, P1, P2, P3, P4, 5. So initially, when the algorithm will start, it will say that it is having 5 clusters: P1, P2, P3, P4, and 5. So number of cluster to start with is 5. Then when the algorithm will proceed, it will try to merge the similar clusters, the clusters which are close to each other. Now, when we compare P1 with P2, P3, P4, P5, we will realize that P1 and P2 are close with each other. So they will be merged. So you can see in the next level, P1 and P2 has been merged and it has given rise to one cluster. So P1, P2 has given rise to this one cluster. And at the same level, okay, because this P2, P4, and P5 were also very close, so these two have also been merged and they have given rise to this second cluster. P3 was far away from P1, P2 as well as from P4, P5, so it has remained separated. So but we will say that in the next level, you have obtained the number of cluster to be equal to 3. So initially you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clusters, but when you started merging from those 5 clusters, what you have obtained is the 3 clusters. So if you go on repeating these steps, if you are proceeding in bottom up way, so what you will see in the next iteration, when you will have 3 clusters, you will realize that these 2 clusters are also very close to each other compared to this cluster third. So this P1, P2, that is one cluster, will be merged with this P3, and that will give rise to another cluster, third cluster. And these will remain separate too. So this is another cluster. So at this level now we will have 2 clusters. So you see how we are reducing the number of clusters. From 5 clusters we have got 3 clusters, from 3 to we have got 2 clusters, and then at the last step we will obtain one global cluster. So this is the working principle, this is the working philosophy of the hierarchical clustering. or the agglomerative clustering. That initially we start with as many clusters as there are as there are data points, data instances in the data set, and in the next level we combine those data points which are close to each other. Then in the next step we again merge the clusters which are close to each other, and we repeat this process until we get the one global cluster. So this is the working philosophy of the agglomerative clustering. And this is the hierarchical clustering algorithm. We may not be able to go into the detail due to the limitation of time, but this is how this is another important aspect showing you how the cluster distances can be measured. Because when we say that over here we are merging the cluster, P1 has been merged with 2 here, 1 and this P3, this cluster has been merged to give rise to this third cluster. So these are the different merging strategies. Like in the sense, we have the single link clustering distance combination, complete link cluster distance measure, average link, centroid, and Ward's method. And on the basis of these three methods, we can combine these two clusters. We can merge these clusters in a different way. But rather than talking about this theory, let's have a practical demonstration of this very algorithm also. So what we will do now, we will import agglomerative clustering, and that will come from sklearn.cluster. Import sklearn.cluster. Okay, so what we have done is we have imported agglomerative clustering just as we imported k-means. See, from sklearn.cluster import k-means. In the similar way, we have imported now the hierarchical clustering, the agglomerative clustering also from sklearn.cluster import agglomerative clustering. And in order to demonstrate this very algorithm, we need the data, and we have generated our own data with the help of makeblobs function, and that is xy is equal to makeblobs. Random state value now we have given is 1 and the centers is equal to 2. So 2 clusters basically. And from the shape, it is clear that we have generated 100 item because we have not mentioned the number of samples. So by default, this very function is generating 100 items in the data set. 100 samples are there now, and AGG is equal to agglomerative clustering number of clusters is equal to 4. So let's keep the value same. The data be also having the 4 centers, and we are also trying to find those 4 clusters. That's why we mentioned the number of cluster value equal to 4. Then assignment to be equal to AGG dot fit predict X and print assignment. So if I run this code, now see these 100 values, 100 data items have been, been assigned to one of the 4 clusters. So again, with this statement, XY, we have generated random data. The shape we have printed, which is 100,2. There are 100 items in our data sets, each sample having two values, X and Y values. And this is the line where we have, instantiated agglomerative clustering. AGG is equal to agglomerative clustering, number of clusters equal to 4. So if I compare it with the k-means algorithm, the same thing we did for k-means also. So this very statement wherein we are writing k-means is equal to k-means number of cluster is equal to 4. So similarly, in our case now we have written AGG is equal to agglomerative clustering, number of cluster is equal to 4. And in the next statement, we have fit the k-means algorithm, k-means dot fit x. And same thing we have done with agglomerative clustering also, like assignment is equal to AGG dot fit predict. We have fitted the model as well as predicted the new labels that is the labels that this agglomerative clustering has found, and we have assigned those labels to the assignments variable. And when we are displaying the assignment variables, these four clusters are appearing. So here also, you can display the data in graphical form also. Like if I copy this statement and paste it over here, and if I run the code now, so see here also, the agglomerative clustering were able to find the four clusters in the data set. So these were the assignments, the new labels that your agglomerative clustering algorithm has found, and the color value has been specified equal to that assignment. That means to see the colors value will be these four distinct colors, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and those four colors we are picking from this color map. And when we will, display this data on a panel, so this will show the result like this data has also been classified into four categories. So again, like initially the centers were 4, but if I mention that now I want to categorize this data into 6 clusters, and now if I run the algorithm, so it will give me 6 clusters also. So you can see there are 6 colors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So well, that is the problem with the clustering also. Like you talk about any clustering algorithm, whether it is k-mean algorithm or hierarchical clustering algorithm, you must give the number of cluster first to the algorithm to proceed with. And if you have no idea about the number of clusters, okay, in that case, it's really tough time for you, because in that case there is no guarantee that your assumption is true, and accordingly the algorithm has worked. Well, these are the problems with the philosophy of the clustering algorithms, k-means and hierarchical clustering, that the number of cluster needs to be known in advance, in the sense that these values needs to be supplied by you, needs to be supplied by the programmer, and whatever number of clusters you will supply, these algorithms cluster the data items to those number of clusters only. So in this algorithm, we have just looked at what is the basic code behind these two clustering algorithms, k-means algorithm and agglomerative clustering algorithm, and how those can be applied to the sample data. And again, as a assignment for you, or the practical work for you, like I showed you that there are different data sets already available in scikit-learn. You can try to apply the concept of clustering also to those existing data sets. So because here we were able to apply the clustering algorithms to our own generated data set, which we generated with the help of this make blobs function. But in your case, you can make use of the built-in data sets that are coming with the scikit-learn, and you try to apply clustering k-mean and agglomerative clustering algorithm to those data sets. So with this, I'll end the discussion. Now over to you participants for any queries and questions from your side.
So some question is there. The cluster points are not those. I think he has been covered earlier.
Pardon, which points?
The cluster points are not these in final k-means algorithm output.
In the output in the code?
Yes.
Okay, just give me 1 minute. Okay, so what I understood is that that along with these clusters, we have not shown the cluster points. Am I
Yes,
right?
yes. He's asking about that.
Okay, if I copy the code from here, like okay, the centers have been obtained from k-means.cluster centers, and then we have printed those values. If I copy the data and if I paste it over here, and now the center value, this cluster center we will pick from AGG, because agglomerative clustering is our clustering now in this code. If I now run the code, yes, agglomerative clustering is okay, not giving you clustering. Yeah, I tell you the yes, because coming up with centers is not the philosophy of agglomerative clustering. So because this it works like this. So again, uh, if we comment on the working of this clustering hierarchy, you see here there is no concept of clustering centers. So the concept is of a dendrogram. So again, you need to look at this aspect also, that when we apply k-means algorithm, what we are coming up with is the clustering center. Okay, but when we apply hierarchical clustering, then there is no concept of means clustering center, but rather there is the concept of a dendrogram, which is linking the different clusters in a particular way, from n number of clusters to one cluster. And again, in the code, if you want to, have a look at that dendrogram, then what we need to do is we need to, apply the, another trick in the sense that we have to make use of that then dendrogram library also. So here whatever we have plotted is wrong, because plotting centers is not the philosophy of agglomerative clustering. So if you just give me 5 minutes, I can demonstrate like how the dendrogram can also be displayed. So what I will do now, from scipy dot cluster dot hierarchy import dendrogram and word method, and when we say linkage array is equal to word x, and dendrogram linkage array, and if I'll so here you can see, so for those 300 data items, a dendrogram has also been plotted. Whether the screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
So if we reduce the number of samples, because really we acted on a very big sample, 300. So if I reduce the number of samples, like when I'm generating that data, if I say n sample, it's equal, let's say 12 only. Okay, and now if I display this thing, so you will see now the things are more clear. So just as I was telling you, like, in agglomerative clustering, there is no concept of that mean that was there in k-means. It is basically a hierarchical, ordering of different items like this. Your data items are being clustered into different groups, and those clusters are linked with a, dendrogram. They are displayed in the form of a dendrogram. So here what you can show is the dendrogram kind of thing only, not the cluster centers, because it is not a geometrical model in true sense. So that's why there was no concept of means. So we were not able to display cluster centers. So hope I am able to answer your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Other questions from remaining participants, rest of the participants?
Sir, one more question is there.
Yes, please.
If nodes are moving with variable speed, is clustering algorithm still applicable?
If nodes are moved, so that means to say you are considering a time varying data set. So if I am able to understand your question correctly, so if you're trying to apply this k-means algorithm to data set which is varying with time, then you have to apply it to each instance of the data set that varies with time. So you can still apply that, but you will get multiple answers. But how you will relate those multiple answers, that is up to you. So if you are dealing with a time varying data set, so you have to pick the data set at one particular moment of time. You have to apply k-means algorithm, obtain the results, then get the next instance of the data set, again apply k-means algorithm, obtain the result, and then make sense of the results. So theoretically, yes, you can apply, you can do that. Yes, please. Any other question? Yes, please. Over to the participants. Questions from your side?
Sir, I think no questions from the participants right now.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
How large data can this handle, sir?
I'm not able to hear you properly. Can you come up again, please?
How large data set can it handle for clustering?
Well, it depends upon the resource that you have at and in terms of hardware. For example, if you have access to big GPUs, graphical processing units, and you have a sound processor, yes, you can really, then act on the large data sets. But if you talk about normal machines which are having just 2 GB or 4 GB of RAM, no GPUs, then you cannot act on bigger database. So the constraint is actually coming from the hardware side. So theoretically, you can apply, these algorithms to data sets of any size. Hardware.
Okay, sir.
Any questions? Any more questions from the audience side?
Ma'am, I think there are no questions. We can wind up the
No
session.
questions.
We can wind up the sessions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Sarabjit. Both the sessions were very interactive. I think everybody has enjoyed the sessions, and even they have got the proper knowledge of classification and clustering in machine learning. Yes. And that too, you have made it clear through hand-on session. It is very good and very interactive. I think participants have got enough knowledge so that they can implement in their research work or in their project work. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So I think I can disconnect now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you all.
So thanks, participant. So we'll meet you again tomorrow at 9:30. So tomorrow's sessions are again very interactive sessions. Practical sessions will be there from the industry professionals. So I request you to please attend those sessions carefully. That will be really helpful for you for your research work and as well as your projects.
Participants, tomorrow's session is basically a practical implementation. A team from the company will make you understand how machine learning and AI concepts are used in company. So kindly attend the sessions and attend both the sessions and attend from the start so that it can be more clear to you.
Okay, ma'am.
सिंगला सर कर दिए
हाँ जी मैम, अमन बैठा है, अमन को कह दो लॉग आउट कर देगा, एंड कर देगा।
फीडबैक लिंक इज शेयर?
हाँ जी मैम, शेयर हो गया।
ओके, ठीक है सर।
ठीक है मैम, थैंक यू। मैं बैठा है अमन, अमन को कह दो एंड कर देगा मीटिंग।